Are you warning me? You're recording this? Get out of
Yeah, yeah. Watch
what?
your P's and Q's, buddy. So, uh, so we're getting together. So I'm getting together with another guy on Wednesday, and it dawned on me. Uh, they've got connections with this guy who I've met. Really humble guy, and yet he's a regular entrepreneur. Um, he manages a company here in Memphis, uh, which I won't mention because I'm recording this. But I mean, it dawned on me. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wanting people to come alongside of me and hold up posters and signs during rush hour. Well, I just did a sign and it cost me a pretty buck. I redesigned things so that I can fit the sign in my car, put it together outside of my car, and make it big. And this sign is going to, huh?
Why don't you get a pickup truck? I'm a car, get a pickup truck. As long as you're carrying around all this equipment.
Well, this sign is going to say, no matter who's president, Jesus is still king.
Amen to that.
And, I get a lot of thumbs up with my present sign, which says, you know, uh, your life matters. After the election, I want to continue with that. But I don't get enough flack, and I think it's because, and I want flack. I mean, I want people to hate me.
Why?
Well, they hated Jesus. So,
You already
and
paid, you paid
it
for everything already.
it's a sign that you're making an impact. And I mean, I don't know. I guess I am a masochist. I make a joke uh, that I have an unhappy marriage, but it's okay because I'm a masochist. But
Sure, Judy loves that.
but the uh, I want to communicate. Yeah, I have a bias as far as who I'd like to see for president. I have a strong bias. And I want to bring something up, though, when everybody joins us uh, pertaining to that. Nevertheless, by making a statement like that, i.e., no matter who's president, Jesus is king, I'm saying, what? Are you for, people are going to say, what? Are you for Biden? What? Are you for Trump? And so I'm making a neutral statement, which is going to probably alienate a few people. And I want people who are for Trump to remember that even if Biden wins, which would be tragic because you're not voting for Biden, you're voting for a puppet. You're voting for his puppeteers. Um, uh, what what really matters is that Jesus is still king. He's in charge. And last week I told you about my altercation with this one guy. Christian, no doubt. But he is strongly a never Trumper. And he knows absolutely that Trump is a demon. And I challenged him on that. And I still don't see how you can hold to that kind of a position. But I'm going to bring I was planning on bringing this up after Doug comes on and after Dean comes on, and I don't know about Larry. But Trump is doing some very unusual things. He's running into all kinds of trouble, and he seems to be walking through it and fixing it. We learned about the UAE and their alliance. They've now made peace with Israel. And I think it was yesterday they announced that they've reconciled Kosovo with Serbia. And these things are all, objectively speaking, good. But let me ask a question. I got to get Doug on. Hello, young man.
Hey, I can't get it to do it. So I can get on there. It says join meeting. If you can receive an invitation, tap to hook up.
So let me ask, are you on a phone or on your computer?
I'm on my phone.
Do you have access to the web with your phone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I've been using. I've been using my phone.
Okay. There should be a link there. It should have a different color, Doug.
Well, it says join the meeting. It's blue.
Yeah,
And
and then after that, there should be a bunch of gobbledygook. It looks like a bunch of, nonsensical letters all and numbers all put together that are a different color.
No, it's not on there.
Oh.
So I'm not in the right place.
Okay.
Let's just stay on the phone. Let me stay on the phone.
Okay, because I love you, I'll let you stay on the phone. And so you can go from there, Doug.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know where Dean is, but we'll continue. And you're stepping in at about the right time. And I'm going to ask a rhetorical question because I was discussing this with Tom. And I was saying that Trump is doing a lot of apparently remarkably good things. He's creating, he had just announced a peace agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel. He just announced a peace agreement between Serbia and Kosovo. And Kosovo, which is a Muslim country, has just recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Now, these are all apparently marvelous things. But I ask rhetorically, and I guess you're free to answer, how and when will peace be established on earth?
When Jesus comes back.
Well, that's not going to happen until Christ comes back.
Well, how do you like that? Both you and Doug, without consulting one another, said exactly the same thing. And so I applaud what Trump is doing, but I say be wary. Because, and this makes my former friend on Facebook right. The one who had unfriended me because I said he has no authority to say that Trump is a demon. He may very well be right. Because both you and Tom and I say that the only way that peace is going to be established on earth is when Jesus returns. And Trump has created a foothold for the United States into Israel. The United States military has created an alliance with the Israeli military. In fact, they're doing common war.
Allies.
What are
Allies.
they called? Yeah, what are they called? War
Allies.
war games.
Oh,
So be wary. And I don't know if I'm saying this after the fact, and I'm saying this too late. I hope not. I don't think I am. But there are an awful lot of people that hate Trump. I would not be surprised if there's an assassination attempt. And if somehow he's assassinated, and somehow, miraculously, he's unassassinated, that's a sign. That's the coup de grace. That's the final sign that he is not the wonderful, magical potion guy that everybody thinks he is. And so, in the words of Ronnie Reagan, I say trust but verify. Keep your eye open. Does that make sense?
well, it makes sense, but
Well,
I like the direction he's
Okay, hold on. Doug's saying something, and then you. Can you hear Doug, Tom?
yeah, I can hear you.
Tom, you can hear Doug?
I do.
Doug, can you hear Tom?
No. Well,
Tom?
yeah, I can.
Tom, say
Yeah.
something.
Doug, how are you?
Yeah.
So answer Tom.
What did he say?
Say it again, Tom.
Doug, can you hear me now? How are you? Do you hear me?
Oh, you know what?
Do we have contact here?
Yeah, try this. Say it now.
Hello there.
Now. Yeah,
Doug,
I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
say something now, Tom.
Are we all on the same station here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I took my earpiece out,
All right.
which enables me to hear people,
Two-piece out.
but it makes it harder for me to hear you on, on the computer. Okay. So I'm gonna start the lesson. I'm gonna try to set up the phone in such a way that.
So what you were saying, though, I agree. You always have to do your due diligence in regards to what Trump is doing. I like what he's doing, and just because we're weary of the fact that he could be the false one or whatever, I believe that we're treading water until Jesus comes back. Eventually, this is all going to collapse anyway, and we know that Jesus is going to come back and bring us up with him, But we still have to do what we do here while we're here, and I feel like he's doing the right thing at this point.
Right. So, yeah, we need to keep our eyes and ears open. I'm not going to badmouth him yet.
Well,
Right.
comparison to what you're comparing it to, and what the left is putting out there, that's a pretty scary comparison.
If in fact, i.e., Trump is what he could be, then the world is between a rock and a hard place.
Well, we're there anyway.
That's right.
Eventually, it's just all going away.
So ultimately, our hope and trust is in the Lord.
Amen.
Okay, I am going to put you on, at least temporarily, so you can see what I have on my computer. And can you see what I have on my computer?
No.
Okay, let's try something else. Oh, there we go. Okay, can you see what I have on my computer now?
Yeah, press escape. The meeting should start in a few seconds.
Right. Okay, now I'm going to show you a map. It's a layout. And I want to backtrack just a little bit. And I want to point you to the way God had ordained Israel to be laid out in the wilderness. And this is going to come together. You'll understand. And so I want to do a little backtracking because I want to take a look at the care with which David prepared the Ark of the Covenant, which is located here. Can you all see my cursor?
Yes.
Oh, Doug, you can't see it. Okay.
No, I'm listening. I'm writing down.
Okay. Okay, so I'm taking you back to Numbers, the book of Numbers, chapter 2. Well, chapters 2 and 3. And we have an outline of the way that Israel was to be laid out before the tabernacle, or what I prefer to call the Mishkan, which is translated tabernacle. But as you may recall, there are a number of terms that were used for temple that are confusing. And there was a Mishkan, which was the literal tabernacle itself. Then there was the Haikal, which is sometimes referred to as a temple, but that's not the temple. That was a place of gathering, of worship. And the temple itself had not been, in our studies, the temple hasn't been built yet. So if you see temple between now and mid 2 Samuel, about around the time of Solomon, actually, yeah, 2 Samuel. You're not, when it mentions temple, you're not talking about the temple. So we had a tabernacle and it had curtains, and it surrounded the holy place. And the holy place is right there in the center. You had a holy place which had the ark. It didn't have the ark, I'm sorry. It had table of showbread, the menorah or candelabra, and the incense, which was located right at the entrance to the Holy of Holies, which was at the end of the holy place, hidden by curtains, where you had the Ark of the Covenant with the cherubim, the cherubim, overlooking it. And we read about the cherubim that God's presence was in the midst of, or in some cases above, the cherubim. And this was a picture, literally, of what you read about in the book of Revelation. You had the 7-branch candlestick Remember? Representing the churches. And you had the oil filling the lamps, which was the Holy Spirit. And then John entered into the holy place where the throne of God was, where the cherubim were gathered. And it's kind of like a TARDIS. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Doctor Who, but we see a completely different dimension. We see a living picture in the heavenly places of what is that Holy of Holies and the tabernacle. Now, surrounding the tabernacle, we saw the Kohanim, the priests. Okay? We see them on the east side of the tabernacle, which is facing the entrance. And you had the altar of where you slayed the animals right here, and a laver where you washed the flesh and you washed yourselves before you entered into the holy place. The only ones with actual access to this were Moses and the priests, primarily the Aaron and his sons. And I'm going to hit on that in a little bit. To the south, you had the other sons of Levi. Levi was the father of all of these people. He was the ancestor of Moses and Aaron. He was the father of Kohath, the father of Gershom, and the father of Merari. And so all the sons of Kohath were located around the tabernacle to the south of it. Sons of Gershom located to the west of the tabernacle. Merari to the north of the tabernacle. And then you had the tribes of Judah, or the tribes of Israel, around the tribes of the Levites. Now it's interesting. The oldest of the sons was Reuben. The second oldest of the sons was Simeon. They were both located to the south of Kohath. So in other words, they were the closest in proximity to Kohath. Then you had Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, Dan, Asher, Naphtali. Then you had Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Notice the proximity of Judah, the most populous nation, to the east, located closest to the Kohanim, the priests. Now, in Numbers chapter 16, we read about Korah's rebellion. Now, who was Korah? He was the son of Kohath. Okay? And he was the son, and Reuben, well, let's look at the text. The son of Levi, with Dathan, Abiram, son of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleg, son of Reuben. And what did they do? They took action, okay? Now, let's look at our map again. We have Kohath and Reuben. And what are they going to do? Each tribe, rather each Levitical group, family, had an assignment. Okay? Gershom took the outer courts of the tabernacle and the curtains and so on. Merari, and I may be wrong in this, but I'm right on the final emphasis. Merari, I believe, took the wall boards that comprised the holy place and the curtains. And they would transport these things on carts when they moved from place to place. When they moved to a location, they would set up in exactly the same format that you see in the picture that I'd outlined before. The Kohathim, well, the priests, the Kohanim, would take the articles of the holy place, the table of showbread and the candelabra, the menorah, and the altar of incense, and the Holy of Holies, or not the Holy of Holies, but the Ark of the Covenant. The Kohanim, the priests, would cover those items. And then the Kohathim would carry those items on poles. So they had these items on their shoulders. And as they traveled, they were in closest proximity to the holy items. Now, this is extra biblical and possibly speculative, but I think it's a good speculation. The weight was the heaviest. They had the closest proximity to the holy items, but they were denied access to the holy items. The only ones who could have access to the holy items were the Kohanim, the priests, the sons of Aaron. So you have the ones with the second highest privilege, the ones who had closest proximity to the holy items, located to the south, next to Reuben, the oldest of the tribes of Israel, who should have been the firstborn. He was the firstborn, but that privilege had been handed over to Judah. You following me?
Yeah.
So Reuben, undoubtedly feels resentment. Kohath undoubtedly feels resentment. And as a result, we have Kohath and Reuben aligning each other. Bear with me. I want to just see if anybody's on the Zoom meeting. Nope, just you and me and okay. So, what do? They rebel. Hey, Moses, Aaron, what gives you the privilege of being closest to the holy things? Aren't we all holy? And they challenge Aaron's authority. And what do? What happens? Moses, undoubtedly instructed by God, says to them, verse 29, if these men die the death of all men, or if they suffer the fate of all men, then the Lord has not sent me. In other words, he's saying, okay, I'm going to show you a sign. This sign says that God has given me the authority, and not you. Don't fight it. But if the Lord brings about an entirely new thing, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that is theirs, and they descend alive into Sheol, the place of the dead, then you will understand that these men have spurned the Lord. As he finished speaking all these words, the ground that was under them split open. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and all the men who belonged to Kohath with their possessions. So they and all that belonged to them went down alive to Sheol, and the earth closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. All Israel who were with them fled at their outcry, for they said, the earth may swallow us up. And then, of course, he had those who were part of the rebellion mentioned previously in the text present censers which carried incense, which is a reflection of prayer. And fire came forth from the Lord out of the holy place, out of the Holy of Holies, and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. What an awesome, fearful event. And yet, when we look at Numbers chapter 26, I thought this had this underline. Okay. We look at verse 9. These are Dathan, Abiram, who were called by the congregation, who contended against Moses and against Aaron in the company of Korah. Korah being the descendant of Kohath. And when they contended against the Lord, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up along with Korah, when that company died, when the fire devoured 250 men, so that they became a warning. The sons of Korah, however, verse 11, did not die. So in other words, Korah and his family died. They were swallowed up in the earth. But Korah, the descendants of Korah, survived. Okay? So now I point you back to that picture with the tribes and the picture of the Leviim, the Levites, with Moses and the priests on the east, Kohath on the south, Gershom on the west, Merari on the north. And I'm going to have to stop the share so that I can look at what I've got at the top. And I will refer you back to 1 Chronicles, chapter 15. And if you could look at that. actually, I think I have it here. Yeah. Okay. 1 Chronicles chapter 15. And I'll put you back on so you can see my. Can you see what's on my screen?
No.
No, you can. Okay, 1 Chronicles chapter 15. The ark has not been brought back to Jerusalem yet. Uzzah had been killed by the Ark of the Covenant. And David is now preparing Israel. So we see now the sons of Kohath, Merari, and Gershon. Let me read it to you. David assembled all Israel at Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to its place which he had prepared for it. David gathered together the sons of Aaron, that's what was on the east side of the tabernacle, and the sons of the Levites, or Leviim. They surrounded the tabernacle, and they consisted of Kohath on the south, Merari on the west, and Gershon on the north. And note, they are in the order in which they appeared on the map in the wilderness in Numbers chapter 16. So what is he doing? He's reassembling what was in the wilderness in the place which was going to become the temple. He's reestablishing what they had done in the wilderness to the place where God is finally going to be settled. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now, who's Elzaphan, Hebron, and Uzziel? I hope I have this on me. I guess I don't. We see that the son, Joel, the chief of the relatives, okay, of the sons of Gershom, Joel or Yoel, the chief of the chief, and 130 of his relatives. Who is Yoel? Yoel was the son of Shmuel, of Samuel. And the sons of Elzaphan. Now, Elzaphan, we don't really see in the genealogies, but I don't think I have it on me, not readily available. But Hebron and Uzziel, who are they? I refer back to the map. We had Moses and the priests, okay? But the priests were only the Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron. And not all of the descendants of Kohath were specifically descendants of Aaron. Let me see. Hold on just 1 second. I don't know if I have it available. Bear with me. Talk among yourselves. I'll be right back.
Oh,
Oh,
how you doing, Tom?
I'm doing well. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Yeah, everything's fine.
That's good. Well, we're living day, every day as it comes. I don't know about all this confusion and all this virus and all this other stuff, but
I'm back.
it'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Levi had 3 sons. Okay.
My 3 sons?
What's that?
My 3 sons? Which one do I?
Yeah, my 5 sons. Da, da, my 3 sons. Da, 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 da. Okay. Levi had 3 sons. Gershom, Kohath, and Merari. So when we look at the map, on the south was Kohath, and then on the west Gershom, and on the north was Merari. But the Kohanim, okay, Kohath had a number of sons. Okay. Amram, Izhar, Hebron, Uziel, 4 sons. Well, from Amram came Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. From Uziel came Elizaphan, and we've already seen mention of him among the 6. Let's see if I can find that again. 1 Chronicles 15. Elizaphan, among the 6 that are set up by David in the temple area. Temple's not built yet. And then we have Hebron. Now, who is Hebron? He is another descendant of Kohath. Okay? Now, his son Aminadab had sons and so on and so forth. And he is the ancestor of Korah, Samuel, and Joel. And Uziel, the other son of Kohath, was Elizaphan or Elzaphan. Now, the only ones who could be priests were the sons of Amram. They were the Kohanim, the priests. So where's all the other Kohathim? What kind of a privilege do they have? They had to be aligned, because they were Levites, along with, let me put on that picture again for you, along with Gershom and Merari. Are you following me?
Yeah.
So now we see that David had set up in Jerusalem a picture of the tabernacle and of the Levitical role of that whole dimension. He had Kohath, Merari, and Gershom, but among the Kohathim, you had Elzaphan, Hebron, and Uziel, because they were Levites. Now, Hebron ultimately became the ancestor of a man by the name of Heman. Okay? Gershom became the ancestor of a man by the name of Asaph. And Merari became the ancestor of a man by the name of Ethan, or Etan. Now, what does that all mean? Okay. This psalm, Psalm 88, because these people were also designated as musicians, we read the introduction to Psalm 88, a song, a psalm of the sons of Korah. Who were Korah? Sons of Korah? These were the survivors of Korah's rebellion who lived, who had not been swallowed up by the earth. You following me?
Yes.
And this is a maskil of whom? Of Heman, the Ezrahite. Now, who is Heman? Heman was a descendant of Korah. He was a Levite, but he wasn't a priest. Now, another interesting question that I have here is, it designates a psalm of the sons of Korah for the choir director, according to Mahalot Le'inot. I don't know what that is. A maskil, and a maskil, it's questionable. It's a pensive, thoughtful psalm of Heman, the Ezrahite. So what's an Ezrahite? In the Hebrew, Ezrahi. There's no indication of who Ezra is. Ezra comes later. So it's not that he was a descendant of Ezra. Ezra could mean a number of things. Number one, there are a lot of people a lot of scholars who are of the opinion that Ezra put together the book of Psalms. He put them in an order that would make sense and that conveyed an overall all-arching message. So he compiled the book of Psalms. That's one possibility. And so he was mentioned in the book of Psalms as a consequence of Ezra. The other thing, though, is that Ezra means help. Remember, we ran across this one event where David had eluded Saul, and Saul had gone after David, and then word got out that the Philistines were attacking somewhere, and so Saul left and allowed David to escape. And we called that he escaped at Eben Ezer, the rock of help, sometimes called the Ebenezer. And so the word Ezra means help. So it could be that Korah was a helper in the worship. So I'm going to briefly, I've studied this psalm, but not in as great depth as the next psalm that I want to look at. But you'll see the order in which these psalms are written. So I'm going to go through Psalm 88 fairly quickly. I'm going to just read through it. O Lord, the God of my salvation, I have cried out by day and night before you. Let my prayer come before you. Incline your ear to my cry. For my soul has had enough troubles, and my life has drawn near to Sheol. We see that Haman has had his share of troubles, apparently, which is why he's writing this. I am reckoned among those who go down to the pit. I have become like a man without strength, forsaken among the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, and they are cut off from your hand. You have put me in the lowest pit, in dark places, in the depths. Your wrath has rested upon me, and you have afflicted me with all your waves. You have removed my acquaintances far from me. It could be that Heman, and this is only speculation on my part, has empathy for his ancestor. You have removed my acquaintances far from me. You have made me an object of loathing to them. I am shut up and cannot go out. My eye has wasted away because of affliction. I have called upon you every day, O Lord. I have spread out my hands to you. Will you perform wonders for the dead? Will the departed spirits rise and praise you? Pause and think about it. That's what Salam means. Will your loving kindness be declared in the grave, your faithfulness in Abaddon, that would be the place of the dead? Will your wonders be made known in the darkness and your righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But I, O Lord, have cried out to you for help. And in the morning my prayer comes before you. O Lord, why do you reject my soul? Why do you hide your face from me? I was afflicted and about to die from my youth on. I suffer your terrors, I am overcome. Your burning anger has passed over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. They have surrounded me like waters all day long. They have encompassed me altogether. For you have removed lover and friend far from me. My acquaintances are in darkness. This poor guy doesn't have any hope. But take a look at what Ezra does to him. Psalm 89. A maskil of Etan, the Ezrahite. I want to just say a few more words about Etan. Let me see if I have it here. Question.
No, we're still on.
Yeah, we're still on. Forgive me. I want to just take a look at Etan and who he is. I forget. Okay, I forget exactly where it's located, but we get a description of Solomon later on. Okay, and we're learning that he's very wise. He's a wise guy, and it says that he was even wiser than Etan. So Etan, Etan is listed among those who are wise, but he's listed as head of them. So Etan is no slouch. He's definitely a wise guy. So Etan wrote a psalm, and we recall that Heman had the descendant of Korah had ended his psalm with little hope. And now comes Etan, the Ezrahite. And I believe that he was put in the Psalms by Ezra. And he says, I will sing of the loving kindness of the Lord forever. To all generations I will make known your faithfulness with your mouth. For I have said loving kindness will be built up forever. In the heavens you will establish your faithfulness. I have made a covenant with my chosen. Now, this is something that we have not covered yet in our history, but we will soon cover it. And that is that David's kingdom is promised to David to survive history, to last forever. And I hope that we can get there a little bit before we're done. It's fascinating. I have made a covenant with my chosen. I have sworn to David, my servant. I will establish your seed forever and build up your throne to all generations. Can I bore you with a song?
Go ahead. No, you're not going to bore us.
I wrote this after seeing these words. Now, there's a little ditty that we used to learn as a kid, as a Jewish boy, a Jewish child growing up. And it very simply went, David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. And then it's repeated, and usually it's done as a round, and it was always fun to sing. And translated, it means David, the king of Israel, lives forever. Okay? And it was because the tradition has it that David was to be the lineage of the Messiah. We lost faith in that tradition, and so Jewish tradition has it that David is that the Messiah is an age that's going to be created by all righteous people. And personally, I don't see anyone who's righteous. But anyway, the song that I came up with intermixes that theme, David Melech Yisrael, with another melody that I developed out of Psalm 89, which goes, I have sworn to David my servant, your seed shall reign forever. Your throne shall prevail through all generations. My covenant holds true. Your throne shall prevail through all generations. My covenant holds true. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. David Melech Yisrael, Chai Chai V'Kayom. Like the sun that shines before me, like the sea, like the moon, its course eternal. I have given an oath to David my servant, your kingdom shall never end. I have given an oath to David my servant, your kingdom shall never end. David Melech Yisrael, and so on. And then you can sing both sections together and create a contrapuntal thing. Maybe David, maybe Tom and I can get together and entertain the world with it. It's kind of a fun song. I did it with a friend, Avner Bosky, when he came to town. And anyway, it was this sound that inspired that song. And I go through the rest of the sound because there's a lot in this. And remember who Haman is. He's a wise guy. He was, if it weren't for Solomon, he would have been the wisest man in the kingdom. And he's looking upon this promise that was already probably given to David, that his kingdom was never going to end. We will cover that next, I think, if not pretty soon. So he goes on and he says, the heavens will praise your wonders, O Lord, your faithfulness also in the assembly of the holy ones. For who in the skies is comparable to the Lord? Who among the sons of the mighty is like the Lord? A God greatly feared in the council of the holy ones, and awesome above all those who are around him. O Lord God of hosts. And when you hear the word Lord in this text, we're referring to the Tetragrammaton, Yud He Vav He, his proper name. Who is like you who is young like you, Almighty Lord? Your faithfulness also surrounds you. You rule the swelling of the sea, and its waves rise, you still them. I want to stop and meditate on this for a second, and the next verse in conjunction with it. You yourself crushed Rahab like one who is slain. You scatter your enemies with your mighty arm. Now, who is Rahab or who is Rachav? Remember Rachav as being the concubine of Abraham, who gave birth to Ishmael. But that's not the Rachav that we're talking about. Rachav was also part of mythology and depicted as the great sea monster or Leviathan. We looked at, or Leviathan. Leviathan was a sea monster, and we recall back in Job that Leviathan was impregnable. And God had said to Job, can you hold his snout open? Can you stick him with your spear? Once you have grabbed a hold of him, you will not take on the fight again. So Rachav is Leviathan, and we often think of, Satan as being kind of like a red goat-shaped character with horns and a long tail with a spear on the end. And no, he is more likened to Leviathan, the sea monster with impregnable scales and who can breathe fire. And so we're talking about God who crushes Leviathan, and you scatter your enemies with your mighty arm. Let's take a look again at verse 9. You rule the swelling of the sea when its waves rise. What do?
You still them.
You still them. The waves may be choppy. They may be 11-foot squalls, but you make them smooth as glass. And what is around the holy place in the heavenlies? A sea of glass with fire going up. I believe it's in Revelation chapter 4. I don't know. I've had these weird temptations to go up to visit the North Pole one day, where you're in the middle of the ocean. I don't know what it's like.
It's going to be cold.
Yeah, well, during the summer, when it's daylight all the time, I don't know. I just envision You know, you being the only one there in complete and utter solitude. I may be wrong, probably am wrong, but I envision a place where there's complete solitude and calmness and peace. And in the middle of the choppy waters, God stills them. And what did Jesus do? When the disciples feared for their lives in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, and he calmed the sea. And when he calms the sea, what does he do? He crushed, verse 10, Rachav, the sea monster. Genesis chapter 3. Your seed shall bruise his heel, but his seed will crush your head. Verse 10, your enemies with your mighty arm are scattered. The heavens are yours, verse 11. The earth also is yours. The world and all it contains, you have founded them. The north and the south, you have created them. Tabor, which is a mountain on the north end of the actually northeast or part of harm of the Valley of Megiddo, which is the place where the final battle will be fought. It's a completely symmetrical hill. And Hermon, which is located on the Mediterranean to the north, a high hill, high mountain, whereas Tabor is a hill. And Hermon, Tabor is where Deborah and Barak fought that battle and won. So he goes on, your hand is mighty, your right hand is exalted. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Loving kindness and truth go before you. So the foundation of God's throne it's not a material thing. It's, I don't know what you would call it. Is it a spiritual thing? It's righteousness. And might I say it's absolute righteousness. Right standing with God is the place where his throne is. Justice is perfect. Today we cry out for justice. And Tom, you had put something on Facebook and commenting on that guy who was crippled in Kenosha. Are you there, Tom?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Okay. And the justice that was meted out to him may have been justice, but it wasn't the perfect justice of God. That's yet to come. And yet, in spite of the midst of that justice, we see that loving kindness and truth go before you. So the loving kindness is chesed. The complete phrase is chesed ve'emet. Emet is truth. And it's those two things that comprise the glory of God. John chapter 1, verse, I believe it's 18. And in him we saw his glory, full of grace, which is translated in the Hebrew as chesed, loving kindness, full of grace and truth. there in essence is the glory of God. It's absolute, so we can't even begin to comprehend it. But we have a picture of Kohath's insight. I want to, before I continue, I just want to bring up something else, Jeff, in verse 1. I will sing of the loving kindness of the Lord. For how long?
Forever.
Forever.
Through all generations, forever.
Right. I was thinking about, what's her name? She was a martyr during the Holocaust. She's a young girl.
Frank?
Huh?
Anne Frank?
I didn't hear that.
Anne Frank.
Yeah, Anne Frank, right. She had commented in one of her writings, I think before her diary had been written, or maybe at the beginning. I've never read her diary, but she said that she aspired to be a journalist who could change the world. And then she died in the Holocaust. But her desire came true. How ironic. And here we see Eitan saying, I will sing of the loving kindness of the Lord forever. To all generations, I will make known your faithfulness with my mouth. Here he is writing somewhere around 1000 BC, saying, I want, in essence, this to be communicated to Doug, Tom, and Benjamin in the year 2020. So let's go on. How blessed are the people who know the joyful sound. O Lord, they walk in the light of your countenance. In your name they rejoice all the day, and by your righteousness they are exalted. For you are the glory of their strength, and by your favor our horn. A horn is, of course, an animal's horn, but it was depicted as symbolic of strength. By your favor our horn is exalted. For our shield, our mogain, belongs to the Lord. Have you ever heard of the term Mogain David, or the Mogan David? The shield of David. For our shield belongs to the Lord, and our king to the Holy One of Israel. So what is it? David, the king, is possessed by God. God owns him. Does God own us? Once you spoke in vision to your godly ones, that would have been Samuel and some of the other seerim, the seers during the time of the judges and so on, because this precedes the later prophets. And said, I have given help, Ezer, to one who is mighty. I have exalted one chosen from the people. I have found David, my servant. With my holy oil I anointed him. With whom my hand will be established. My arm also will strengthen him. The enemy will not deceive him, nor the son of wickedness afflict him. But I shall crush his adversaries before him and strike those who hate him. My faithfulness and my loving kindness that would be my emunah, v'chesed, v'chasdi, will be with him. And my name, his horn. My name will be his strength, will be his exalted. I shall also set his hand on the sea and his right hand on the rivers. He will cry to me, "You are my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation." I also shall make him my firstborn, the highest of the kings of the earth. My loving kindness I will keep for him forever, and my covenant shall be confirmed to him. So I will establish his descendants forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. Are we talking strictly about King David?
I think we're talking about Christ.
I think we're talking about Christ too.
Amen.
Now, let's get back down to earth. If his sons forsake my law and do not walk in my judgments, if they violate my statutes and do not keep my commandments, then I will punish their transgressions with the rod. Are we talking about Christ?
I think we're talking about people like Samuel's sons.
Is Samuel's?
They didn't do,
Yeah, Samuel's
they didn't
sons.
do right, and he punished them.
Samuel's sons and David's sons. Notice how he punishes them. Verse 32. What's he going to use?
The rod.
The rod. And their iniquity with what? Stripes.
Yeah.
What does a rod do?
Hurt.
It hurts somebody. It smarts. And stripes, it's a result of a whip. Why didn't he say, "I will punish their transgressions with the sword"?
He didn't want to kill him.
You got it. He wants the line to go on forever. He's not going to kill them off. So he says, "My covenant I will not violate. Nor will I alter the utterance of my lips. Once I have sworn by my holiness, I will not lie to David. His descendants will endure forever, and his throne as the sun before me. It shall be established forever like the moon, and the witness in the sky is faithful." So he's not going to punish David's lineage like he did to Saul. And yet we're going to learn of David's chesed, his forgiveness, his loving kindness to Saul. We saw earlier about how Saul had sought David's death. And yet David mourned Saul's death. And we're going to see later how David honored Saul and his descendants in the same way that God is going to honor David and his descendants. Verse 38, "But you have cast off and rejected. You have been full of wrath against your anointed." Who's anointed? The Mashiach. Anointed means Mashiach. That's the word. Messiah. Let me see if somebody's trying to get on. I don't know. Nope. Okay. Back to drawing board. Okay. So he goes on. You have spurned your covenant with your servant. You have profaned his crown in the dust. You have broken down all his walls. You have brought his strongholds to ruin. All who pass along will plunder him. He has become a reproach to his neighbors. You have exalted the right hand of his adversaries. You have made all his enemies rejoice. You also turned back the edge of his sword and have not made him stand in battle. You have made his splendor to cease and cast his throne to the ground. You have shortened the days of his youth. You have covered him with shame. So wait a minute. He's supposed to live forever, but what happened? It doesn't seem to be the case. The kingdom has been destroyed.
Yeah. They've killed Christ and done all that, and he's getting ready to come back.
And what did they do? What also did they do? They destroyed Israel.
Yes.
And yet Israel survived. So even as David blessed Saul, God blessed David. God blessed Israel and God blessed Messiah. How long, O Lord, will you hide yourself forever? Will your wrath burn like fire? Remember my span of life is. For what vanity have you created all the sons of men? What man can live and not see death? Can he deliver his soul from the power of Sheol? Where are your former loving kindnesses, O Lord, which you have sworn to David in your faithfulness? Remember, O Lord, the reproach of your servants, how I bear in my bosom the reproach of all the many peoples with which your enemies have reproached all, O Lord, with which we have reproached the footsteps of your anointed. So we've reproached the Messiah. And so the Messiah has reproached us. And Eitan, the wise guy, is looking into the future and seeing all of this. And in the midst of that, he says, blessed be the Lord forever. Amen and amen.
Yeah.
I think we'll stop here. Next week, we'll go into the covenant of David, and we'll learn a little bit about how David blesses the family of Saul, and how and history, which is taken up by strictly the book of Samuel. Any prayer requests?
Yeah. We have a lady in our Sunday school class. They had to rush her to emergency room this week. She had a blood clot in the lung and a blood clot in her leg, and I think they couldn't dissolve it. They had to go in after it, and from what I've heard, she's doing real well. But I just want to pray for her that she will continue to do well.
What's her name?
It's Joan McKay.
We praise the Lord for doctors and for healing her. And Lord, if it be your will, we ask that she might have many wonderful years left.
Yeah. She lost her husband a couple of years ago, and she's more or less by herself. She's got a son, a daughter. One son lives in Dallas, and the daughter lives in Atlanta. But they spent all their life here in Memphis, and a lot of the ties are here. I don't know what's going to happen after this. Her daughter who lives in Atlanta may want her to come closer to her.
Yeah.
Family members would like that, so they'd be close.